tearing down one house to build 4 townhouses, each one with a basement suite, so that totals 8 units total. Calgary versus Edmonton investing, how to not pick the wrong tenant, creating a real-life nightmare, and more on this week's Truth About Real Estate Investing for Canadians. My name's Erwin Cito, host of this show, and over 300 episodes, all about an hour along each or more, and we've been going since 2016. And I'm feeling fine after I've returned from vacation from 3 weeks. Half that time is in Japan, the other half in Hong Kong, China. We landed at 5 p.m. last night. I've had about 5 hours sleep. It wasn't great. I've been awake since 3 a.m. So let's go. Our trip was amazing. Thank you for asking. The Japanese are a fascinating culture. I can't recommend that everyone go there for themselves to witness firsthand what a lovely country and people they are. Super polite, great service. Everything's on sale because the yen is in the dumps. That's what you get when the governments go a little heavy on the debt. And to give an example of the change in the yen, when I first visited Japan, the first and only time I've previously visited Japan in 2000, the exchange rate was 100 yen to $1. Today, it's 109 yen to $1 Canadian. So we've gained about 45% purchasing power since my last time there 23 years ago. And it's crazy how things have changed, because back then, in the 90s, everyone thought that Japan would take over and become the global superpower. So it's happened before, where people thought a certain Asian country would take over and become the global superpower. A lot of people think China might be. I'm not convinced. We'll see. Time will tell. But again, thanks to all the debt that the Japanese have taken on, which has ruined their currency for the locals. Again, the yen has been slaughtered, basically. But funny enough, they actually have the highest GDP per capita among the G7 countries, so they're ahead of the Americans, while they have a ton of debt, versus we rank second last in Canada, GDP per capita. I actually saw a statistic today. If you removed immigration from our stats, from our GDP, we would actually have 4 quarters of negative GDP growth, as in, so we were shrinking the last 4 quarters, if not for immigration. Fascinating stuff. I geek out on this stuff. I enjoy this because knowledge is power. Knowledge is power, in my experience. So yeah, so Canada is second last in GDP per capita among the G7. We're just ahead of Italy, but we're actually expected to fall behind Italy, so we will be last within a few years. Traveling is such a wonderful way to learn and experience. As a real estate socialist but fiscal conservative, I find it fascinating in how Hong Kong, China, which is the least, even after about a 20% housing price correction from before the pandemic, because before the pandemic they had protests and then they had the pandemic. So between those two events, the real estate prices have actually come down 20%. So they never had the COVID boost that most of the West has had. So even after that 20% decline, they are still the least affordable city in the world. Yet they still managed to have 2 million of its citizens, 2 million Hong Kong citizens live in government subsidized housing. You want to know how affordable their subsidized housing is? Try $260 to $430 per month. My Costco bill was $270 yesterday. That's more than someone pays for rent for a month in Hong Kong for an apartment. But the crime must be terrible, right? Just like, our government housing heavy area of Jane and Finch in Toronto, right? Wrong. Crime is actually extremely low within the government housing areas. How low? Hong Kong and Asia in general is pretty low, especially in developed areas. So as an example, I like to give examples, like to quantify everything pretty much in life. I think we can all agree Vancouver, British Columbia is considered low crime for an urban city, right? Hong Kong's homicide rate, so homicides it's very easy to track. It's a piece of data that's very easy to track. So Hong Kong's homicide rate is about 85% lower than Vancouver's. 85% lower homicide rate of Hong Kong is lower than Vancouver's. Crime is that low. The police don't even carry guns. And I'm actually having trouble recalling if I saw a police officer in Hong Kong in my 10 days there. And I was riding through, I was on the streets all the whole time, riding through subways, walking streets. I'm a tourist. So then why all these Chinese immigrants? Well, not everyone wants to live under a communist regime. It's nice to visit a communist regime. I'm not sure I want to stay there. If you're planning a trip to Japan anytime soon and want some tips, please just feel free to reach out. If enough people ask, I'll put together a list of recommendations. If you don't want to gain weight, then don't ask me. even though our average daily steps was 17,000, we were walking 10 kilometers a day. With the yen on sale, that means everything is on sale. Plus sales taxes there is in the single digits. It's in the high single digits, so it's less than ours here. So it's similar to Alberta. There's also no tipping. So in total, like when you go out for a meal, for example, or you take a taxi, you're saving 20 to 30%. Public transportation is amazing. It's the best I've seen personally. I hear Singapore is even better. I plan to be there in April. And again, I managed to, I thought I gained more. I can see it in my face, but apparently I've gained about 5-6 pounds. Fun useless fact of the day. While here, when I'm at home, I eat about 2.5 meals a day. While I was in Asia, I was having to plan for 4 meals a day so that I could eat as much as possible of some wonderful food. And the last 30 days have been the most amazing eating I've done over that large of a stretch of time. You know the crazy part though? Japan's 7-Eleven, the convenience store that we're all familiar with, their ready-made food is quite good. It's cheap and it's fast. Who says you can't have it all? So where to next time? Plan is Taiwan. If it's not invaded by China by then, it will be at the top of our list, assuming we can get a cheap flight. We went to Tokyo because we were able to get a cheap flight. Tokyo, however, was a bit on the cold side. We're well into fall, almost winter. Fall colors had passed, so we didn't get to enjoy fall colors as I had hoped. Temperatures range between 8 and 18 degrees. But we would get, I'd like to get warmer climate. My requirement is a direct flight, great food, clean cities, polite culture, and that would arrive us at Taiwan. On the real estate front, on the personal real estate front, on our own Cherry Nice portfolio, we're between quotes. We have quotes. Some repairs have started, repairs and renovations on the properties that we're selling in the first week of January. Those properties are student rentals. So appreciate that a student rental is a bit different as my target buyer is an out-of-town parent, typically from the Toronto area. And most out-of-town parents will be in town where my properties are in Hamilton, St. Catharines, when students are looking for accommodation they go looking for accommodation when they get back from Christmas holidays, which will be the first week or so of January. So I'm making my property available at the same time when all the students and parents are looking. When students and parents see that rooms are hard to come by, even at $700-800 a month, they'll quickly do the math and realize it probably makes sense to just own instead. So if you know anyone looking to buy a quality student rental in an A+ location, please send them my way. Also on the real estate side, TD Economics came out with a report. So I record these, if you don't know, I record these every week, so the news stays fresh. TD Economics just came out with a report called Ontario Housing, the 90s Downturn and Now. I discovered this report while I was reading an article saying how Ontario may repeat the housing market crash of the late 80s, early 90s. The article linked to this TD report, so I stopped reading the article and I clicked on the report because I want my information without hyperbole, nor media spin, nor opinion. I like the language of economics. I like studying history, cause and effect, and learning from how history may predict the future. Because just because one metric, specifically sales to new listing ratio, just because it's as low as it's been since the financial crisis of 2008 and the the most significant housing crash of our generation, which was about 30 years ago. I've linked to the report, the TD report, in the show notes. Bloomberg titled their story, where I found the report. Bloomberg's title for the story was, "Could Ontario's housing market experience a 90s lifestyle downturn?" Could it? Spoiler alert, highly improbable, to quote the report. But please do read the report, read the article yourself. Nothing beats getting information straight from the horse's mouth. But I probably just saved you about at least 15 minutes of reading by telling you The article is probably a bit of clickbait. Again, highly improbable, but go ahead. I recommend that you read the report for yourself. More locally, a friend of mine reached out as she's looking for advice as she's suing her joint venture partner. She gave me his name. I'd never heard of him before. So I creeped him on social media. And after a few scrolls, I could tell this guru was on the news side. New gurus they always have lots of social media marketing. So it's not hard to do some basic diligence on them. Based on the quality of their marketing, they have a good coach for marketing. And based on the picture this certain guru posted with two other gurus, I could tell that's who he's coached by because they both have good marketing, and the JV partner likely invests very aggressively while highly leveraged, which is a formula for disaster over the last 2 years. So, and this is no different than a lot of investors who are in hot water these days. But I also appreciate that the last 12 months, I never known so many people to be suing each other. The other crazy part is that people from different education groups, they're suing each other within because they're doing business within, so they're suing each other. I've never seen. Well, first of all, there's never been so many groups, and yeah, because because there's been so much marketing spent and so many people got into real estate investing, more than I've ever known in the last 2-3 years, and the timing hasn't been great, so a lot of people got burnt and. Lawyers will be doing well. So be careful out there. In my experience, most failed investments are due to lack of experience and lack of experience among the real estate expert, expert in the joint venture partnership. There's a lot of good opportunities out there. Boring ones like cash flow. One just needs to know where to look. So don't forget, on that point, don't forget, Saturday, January 13th is our next U.S. investing workshop. We've had many requests for when we were going to do the next one because a lot of people couldn't make the one in November. We've already sold out 22, over half. We have 40 seats in person. We've already sold 22 of them. So if you do want to come, especially for in person, do buy your ticket ASAP to avoid disappointment. It's under $40 with all tax and tip all included, and money goes to charity. So anyways, on to this week's show. McKenzie Wilson is a risk-averse, smart guy as he got into Calgary real estate investing, and he wisely knew that screening for right tenants was absolutely key. Yeah, and to quote McKenzie, the wrong tenant will lead to a living nightmare. And this is coming from a Calgarian, an Albertan. where they don't have rent control and they can have tenants out within 45 days-ish. Ask him what he thinks about investing in BC or Ontario. I know exactly what he thinks. Spoiler alert, he thinks we're nuts. Anyways, Mackenzie is an advocate for affordable housing and reduction of risk for landlords and tenants across Canada. With this, Mackenzie has created and manages the largest online community of 4,000 plus landlords in Alberta. It's actually have a link to it in the show notes. It's called Alberta Landlord Community on Facebook, so you can find it there. I believe anyone can join. You just to verify that you are a landlord. His online presence allows landlords to learn key fundamental landlord practices, navigating risks and challenges associated with being a landlord, and maintaining a mutually beneficial tenant-landlord relationship. That is so important. If you're a fan of real estate development as an investor, including highest and best use investing, pay special attention to Mackenzie's current project, which is a teardown infill project in Calgary, Alberta, that will qualify for the in-demand CMHC MLI Select financing. That means 95% loan to value, 50-year amortization. Did I mention highest and best use? He's already purchased a regular everyday lot that is 60 feet by 100 feet deep, and it has the correct zoning for which he will intensify one house by tearing it down and turn it into 4 townhouses, each with a basement apartment. So it's not quite 10xing housing supply, but 8xing housing supply on a single lot is pretty awesome. Mac, as he's known to his friends, also works at SingleKey, which is Canada's largest tenant screening service, which is the same online service that I use and I recommend to my clients to use to give to prospective tenants to complete and what you get back is a credit report, what we used to call tenant credit reports, but now they're cheaper now, which is amazing. They're faster, digital, and more user friendly, especially on the comprehension side than ever. Again, to follow Mackenzie, you can find him on LinkedIn, you can find him on Facebook. His Facebook group is Alberta Landlord Community. Please enjoy the show. Hello, Mackenzie. What's keeping you busy these days?
Hey, Aaron, man. Well, I'm in Toronto.
Yeah,
but
you brought the warm weather with you
for a day. And my Alberta ignorance, I thought I'd do this in person with you, but I'm in SingleKey's head office here on Queen Street, and I did not realize how long it takes to drive a very short distance to Oakville, Ontario. But everyone who's local is probably just like, yep, tisk.
Yeah, this is what we live with. So you're about like I think you're like 30 kilometers away. And how long did the Uber say it would take?
Over an hour. Blew my mind. And like midday driving, no rush hour. Like I'm sorry, I should be in person telling you this, but yeah, it was over an hour. It was like $50, whatever. That was fine. But like just to get down, just not practical. Like it's just the laws of physics are against me right now with all the people in my way to get out to Oakville, 30 kilometers away.
36 kilometers away. Yeah, it would take you. Yeah, traffic's lighting up apparently a little bit, but
and it was like an hour and 10 minutes. If nothing blew up, I think.
I know what's funny? I just checked right now. The traffic's lighting up. I think people were just ditching work after lunch. That was what you were going to get caught in with. For listeners' benefit, Mackenzie was going to make his way here just after 1 p.m. on a Thursday afternoon. So neither of us predicted gridlock in downtown Toronto. But how else do you explain it?
Right? Yeah, it's mind blowing. But Aaron, we've got so much to talk about. Lots going on at
I'm excited. Where should we start? Where do you want to start?
I'm in town because of SingleKey, because of my job. So let's start there.
Yeah. For listeners' benefit, what's SingleKey? Why should they care?
Yeah, absolutely. So we're Canada's fastest growing tenant service. We have the most comprehensive credit tenant report. It's really a digital application plus a full comprehensive report across Canada. We hit 100,000 landlords a month ago. We're growing really fast right now. Where most companies right now are slowing down because of the current economic environment, and we're actually growing, which is just really shows what we're doing well. And there's really a need out there. We basically give the small mom and pop landlord the same tools that banks have before they finance a mortgage. They can pull all that credit information. Well, now you have that at your fingertips as a private housing provider before you select your next tenant. So you can make that most informed decision possible, which is so critical at the beginning of the tenancy, because either you pick right and it's kind of on cruise control and the rest of the tenancy is really generally easy, or you make a mistake, you pick the wrong person in place to be your next tenant, and you're living a real life nightmare, not to mention the financial stress that you're going to probably bear trying to do evictions, damage control costs, all those things that come along with it.
Mm-hmm. And then it's funny, when I first met you, like you're talking about your fear of an Alberta tenant, and like, what's this guy talking about fear? You're talking about like the best case scenario.
I know. It's just perspective is crazy across our provinces. It's just so vastly different.
Okay, so hang on. A couple of things, because you said a mouthful of SingleKey. SingleKey is also the largest, are they? No, not just the fastest growing, but
fastest, largest. Yeah, I would absolutely say so. There's some other competition out there, but they're old. They're from, I think, some are from like the well before the 2000s, and it's just the largest one out there. And how I got hooked up, and I mean, for your audience perspective, I run the largest Facebook group in Alberta for landlords called the Alberta Landlord Community. I brought on a bunch of sponsors to provide discounts to the community to make a little bit easier of the life being a landlord. And SingleKey was my first sponsorship I signed up.
And then even between that time, you guys acquired your largest competitor.
Yeah, so we acquired Neighborly the fall of last year, so 2022. That would have been November when we announced it. And just from a number of landlord accounts or paying accounts that people use our service, we effectively tripled our size with the acquisition of Neighborly. Like the Neighborly was way bigger than us.
So you guys you're the biggest show in town, so you probably know a lot of things.
I have this weird affinity to love everything about tenant screening, and it's a passion of mine, which is why I fit quite well with the company, among other things.
Yeah, I'd categorize you among the obsessed with systemized tenant screening. Give us some examples. Give us some stories that like what got you so hooked on tenant screening? Or is it just some stories you read, or did you have a personal experience?
Yeah, no, like so I came into real estate, and like most people, I was super fearful that I get one of these professional tenants, bad tenants, someone that not stop paying. I mean, I was carrying a second mortgage at the time, and it would have financially it was. I had the pivoting point of either if I do this right, it's going to really catapult and look after my family and all those desires of financial freedom and certainty, or if I do it wrong, I'm completely and utterly destroyed. And like, I couldn't get a credit card, so like I was so fearful, right? Because it would just set me back so far if I did it wrong. But then I looked in the market, I'm like, well, landlording, even the term landlording comes back from the medieval times, but there's systems in place. People are successfully doing it for decades and centuries. What am I not understanding? So I just started doing research.
Yeah.
And one day at a real estate conference, talking to someone I held in high regard that had 100, 200, 300 plus doors, we were just sitting down at dinner sharing our systems. And he goes, oh, wow, you do all those things? And I was like, yeah, wait, what do you do? And I kind of realized at that point in time, maybe I'm a bit different. Maybe I'm a little bit more obsessive than the average Joe, average landlord for tenant screening. And sure enough, now I actually have a direct impact, and I can directly affect how we're designing the tool and making the service better for landlords.
So what are some mistakes that beginners make? Because I've read about them in the newspaper, because that's where they end up. When a novice makes a mistake, like real bad, they're ending up in the newspaper.
Yeah, well, and the consequences are so dire. What's really challenging about this business, I think a lot of people either take for granted or don't even really comprehend, is you have a huge challenge as a landlord, as you have a large capital sum up front that you have to protect and somehow manage, and any mistakes will blow that up. You'll lose your down payment, you could destroy a house. At the same time, though, you're also trying to find a customer or a client, a long-term relationship, and they have a high expectation. This tenant, and rightfully so, wants to call your property their next home, and so it's got to meet minimal housing standards and all these different things. And so we have this balancing act that we have to perform as entrepreneurs and landlords and investors to balance this thing, so we don't destroy our capital asset, but still maintain a good service with the tenants. And how do we do that? And yeah, so to your question, common mistakes is people probably getting into this industry. It's probably one of the most regulated industries that we have here in Canada. I think off the top of my head, there's 3 to 4 pieces of legislation that directly impact us, but I think there's actually closer to 7 and 8. You've got the Residential Tenancy Act across every province that you operate in. You've got the Human Rights Act. You've got the Real Estate Act, the Privacy Commissioner. There's just so much legislation over this industry, and people come in blind. They rent out to the first person they see. Mm-hmm. They're doing things incorrectly. That perhaps they're being what do you call it when you're unintentionally prejudiced by not selecting or infringing on protected grounds in the Human Rights Act. There's so many places that make mistakes, and because you have such a high value asset, a mistake with like a startup business, maybe you start a landscaping company, you blow up a lawnmower, or you blow up your trailer, it's like $5,000, whatever, go buy a new trailer, go buy a new lawnmower. Here, especially in Ontario, your guys' assets, the average house price in any of these larger cities is well over up to $1 million or more. So you screw up with that, then that's like a $50,000 mistake, because now you're trying to go through an eviction. Tenant hasn't paid rent for 8+ months if you don't make a mistake on your eviction process with the LT board on current timelines for evictions right now to get your hearing.
Now, that was a mouthful. No, for the listeners' benefit, especially if you're new to this, it's okay. Don't be afraid. Like, this is just part of the process. But
it's doable. It's totally attainable.
It's doable, and a lot of that, it's easier than ever to do it properly. Right?
And what I just gave you is the tip of the iceberg of worst of the worst of the shitty situation, 95%, 97%. There's a lot of great tenants out there. Most of them are amazing. There's a lot of great landlords out there. Most of them are amazing. Everyone just wants to find a quality place to rent, and landlords just want someone that can help pay the bills and cover their mortgage, because we all have bills to pay, and that happens 95% of the time. It's just like super small delta, this 4%, that what makes the news, what gives everyone the headaches, the stress of this business.
Yeah, so you actually have data into that. That was cool that you mentioned it's 4%. So I didn't know how to quantify it exactly.
All right, I'm ballpark. Don't quote me, but just like so I'm speaking personally from running my Facebook group. I know. Okay, actually, I do have data. But you are correct there. Okay, so there's if you go to the Canadian Rental Housing Index, it's a database across Canada. You can filter on the number of rental households, and I know Alberta's numbers as of like, call it this summer Q1 was around, we had 420,000 rental households in Alberta. I know, just being in the industry, we ballpark, this is like kind of like SingleKey and talking to some other service providers in the industry, the average landlord owns 2.5 doors. And I also know, and this is always a good question, if we look at all the rental stock out in the market, there's two main providers. There's the private mom and pop landlords, the you and me, and there's the big multifamily corporations that own hundreds and thousands of doors. Now, generally, the concern or the thought is people think these big corporations own the lion's share or the majority of the market stock or of the inventory of the rental market, or rental stock, sorry. And it's not even the case at all. People like you and me provide anywhere, it varies by province, but we provide between 65 and 70% of all the rental stock is provided by private Canadian citizens. Then the other 35% or so, that's the big, that's CapREIT, that's Boardwalk out in Alberta that have 30, 40, 50, 60,000 doors. That's those guys. But they're a minority player when you look at the overall market share of the universal rental stock out there. Mm-hmm. So running my numbers again quickly, 420,000 renting households in Alberta. If we take, let's say, 65, 70% of that, and then we divide it by 2.5 doors, we ballpark around 105,000 private landlords in Alberta. And my Facebook group has about 4,500 members. So I'm not even 5% of all the landlords in Alberta that are private players, excluding, of course, the multifamily players. We take them out of the equation. And I see occasionally, probably a couple times a month, a really bad a landlord, a homeowner has been burnt so badly. It's that typical news story, right? Their front page, house has been trashed. There's paint and holes in the wall. Toss. It's just rent hasn't been paid for 10 months. They're $40,000, $50,000 in the hole, $80,000, whatever it might be. It does happen occasionally, yeah.
Oh. But not watching it?
Pretty much, they got complacent, and I've been there. I totally get it. Life is busy. The rent's coming in the first of every month. You think everything's okay. Actually, I need to go inspect one of my properties right now. I haven't seen since July 1st. So I have to go and take a look because I put new tenants in there. So I should go check on them. But it happens. They're on auto drive. They're doing other things in life, because most landlords, by the way, have full-time jobs. Since on average, the average landlord owns around 2.5 doors. Most people just own, I'd say the median number is probably closer to 1.5 doors. So everyone's got these full-time jobs. Owning properties, like they do it on the side. Not many people do it full-time. So they get busy, and then all of a sudden they go and they look at their property 8 months later. Perhaps their tenant had a midlife crisis, whatever else happened. They picked the wrong person. That place is destroyed.
Mm-hmm. So curious. Do you know if they were still paying rent? Because the first red flag is rent doesn't get paid, and then that's when you usually follow up. You know what I mean?
Yeah, totally.
Or were they just
it depends.
They were just not watching it at all.
Well, no, not that's a good point, Aaron. I think that the rent's still getting paid, and they come to I think the way most get burnt is they come to the property. I haven't looked at it for like a year or something like that. Rent's being paid, and the property is just like it hasn't been cleaned since the day they've moved in. Mm-hmm. And if they have unauthorized pets, so there's either dog or cat urine all over the place, so the flooring's all gone. Sometimes they're ripping out the subflooring because that smell has gone right into the subfloor, right through carpet or whatever. Mm-hmm. or they kind of get the warning signs that the tenant stops paying rent, or I see this happen a lot too, is they have allowed unpaid rent for like excuses, like, oh, sorry, I couldn't pay this month, and then they pay 2 weeks late, and then 3 or 4 months of this happens where it's excuse after excuse, and the landlord's trying to make things work with the tenant, and they're not running it like a business. They're being compassionate, and unfortunately, compassion. And this, you can be polite and respectful, but compassion and extending olive branches when it's not justified will just financially put you in a bad place.
So it even happens in Calgary or Alberta. Sorry.
Oh yeah, yeah. We just have better systems in place to quickly rectify the issue once we know we have an issue. We're not impervious to bad tenants, or I don't want to say bad tenants. That's not fair too. Undesirable tenants. I don't know. And just to say as well, there's undesirable landlords as well.
Oh, yeah.
I really hate the term slumlord. Like I use that so very sparingly, but they're out there as well.
They exist. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's bad on both sides. I've seen it at the landlord table myself. I've seen what appear to be very unqualified landlords. Let's leave it at that. So actually, I just because I don't want to spend too much time on it, but I do want. Can you share your experience then? If a tenant's not paying, what is the process for you in Alberta?
Yeah. Okay. So if you've got a good documentation trail of breaches to your lease, repeated unpaid rent or late rent, unauthorized pets, occupants.
So hang on, unauthorized pets. Like every time they add a pet, they have to let you know, or like what?
Well, it depends on your lease. If you've got a properly written lease, there's certain pieces that have to be in there to make the lease legal within Alberta. But we don't have a standard lease like you guys have in Ontario.
Mm-hmm.
We can write anything we want, as long as it doesn't contravene the Act, which is the Residential Tenancy Act. So if we're in line with the Act, we can put no pets are allowed without prior written approval from the landlord or the landlord's agent, for example.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I totally riffed here. What was the question again?
So say a tenant stopped paying rent, what is your recourse?
Oh, right, yeah. So if there's number of breaches, if you have enough of documentation, you could just go file for an eviction. You don't need to do a 14-day notice. The 14-day notice is where things are starting to go south. You don't have enough paperwork to justify the eviction with the RTDRS, which is the equivalent to the LTB for you guys. And so then you got to build up the evidence, right? So first time they're late with rent, you send them the 14-day notice. You have the exchanges in email. You document everything. Happens again the second month, happens again the third month, then you can go and file, because they're going to be lenient if you just go, oh, my tenant was late 1 week on the very first month of the lease. You go and try to file an eviction at that point, the board's going to look at you like you're silly. Like, come on, work with this tenant. There's always an expectation to set up a payment plan. You can't just go from 0 to 100 and try to evict someone. There has to be a bit of trying to resolve and mediation taking place. But again, if it's like, let's say you have a condo and you've got a tenant that's risk to the other people in the building because they're carrying around knives or uttering threats, you could have that person evicted as fast as in 24 to 48 hours. And so our RTRS, what they do is they set aside every day. There's a few time slots set aside for hearings that require urgent matters. So like domestic abuse, personal threats, or if someone's completely destroying a property and you've got proof of it, like if police have been to your unit multiple times because the tenant is perhaps having a mental breakdown or suffering, something like that, those certain really high priority cases can get cycled through. We can see evictions in a matter of hours, usually within 1 to 2 days.
It sounds like you have a much more well-oiled machine than we have here.
I don't even want to talk about your guys' board. I don't want to bring it up because it hurts.
So we're like, before we're recording, we're talking like yes, Alberta, lovely. Calgary, love Calgary, but Calgary was I've heard other people tell me that they were seeing ads like move to Calgary, like they're seeing ads in like Vancouver and Toronto. I
remember being in Toronto last year, first time I flew out for SingleKey, and learning the Union Station, and And there's these big printed Canadian Rockies of the Albertas and Banff, how beautiful it is with like just crystal clear turquoise lakes. It says move to Alberta, the Alberta Advantage. I saw those ads. Like it was literally all over your guys' subway at Union Station there. And it's funny random note. I thought I was at Union Station, so I took that GO train from the airport from Pearson. And when you first get off, you have to walk over like a walkway across the street to get actually to the real Union Station. Well, I walked out a stairwell and came out on the street before I even hit Union Station. And I was like, man, people say it's a big train station, but that's just like one platform. I'm like, that's weird. Ignorant. Sorry, I should not swear.
Platform.
I should, completely
like
ignorant
30
here.
platforms or something ridiculous.
I know. So silly. And then I didn't realize until I left to fly back home, I actually went through the proper doors. I was like, oh, yeah, this makes more sense. Silly me. Anyway, side note.
So it's just what I see on the news. It seems like the people of Calgary are feeling it. They're feeling the because we were talking before recording, like the number of people that attended the demonstration at the city hall over housing affordability. It was a big number. It was peaceful. I love Calgarians, how peaceful they are. It was peaceful, but again, it looked like there were hundreds outside of City Hall demonstrating for housing affordability.
Yeah, I didn't see how many people show up, so I'm relying on you on that. But just for context, year over year right now, coming from May into the spring, summer, and where we are now in the fall when we're doing this recording, 2023, rents have increased between 25 and 30% in Calgary.
That's not
and so anyone, right? That's a huge shock value because you got to remember we can raise rent once every 365 days. So now we've basically have gone through almost a full cycle of rent renewals for the majority of our rental stock. There's probably still some that haven't been hit yet if they timed it perfectly by signing a lease in April or something like that. But even the rents are increasing then, but like at 10%, right? So rents have gone up. Edmonton's very balanced right now. It's not in a similar place to us, but I have some takes on that. I'll quickly two of them off the top of my head here. Edmonton did a really smart thing back in 2008. They did blanketed wide permission to put secondary suites across the whole city. That was in 2008. They had a really smooth administration process to file and get up to code. So because of that, and now we're going, so 2008, 2018, 2023, so that's 15 years ago. Since they've put that change in, they have a lot more secondary rental suite stock in their inventory. And secondary suites, especially basement suites, are really, they fit a really good need for affordable housing. They're less desirable by design because they're in someone's basement. They're typically darker, not less natural light. Sometimes people, if they're in an older house, they're probably colder. They're just not as a desirable unit. So therefore they can't command that same market parity rent for a similar 2-bedroom in a condo or a townhouse or whatever. So they charge less rent. And so Edmonton's got a huge supply of this right now. And then
but that's not good news for investors though, right?
What's that?
It's great news for tenants. It's not great news for landlords.
But you know what? Investors know this.
Competition.
Totally, lots of competition, but I think it's good too because now that there's lots of choice right now for tenants still up in Edmonton. It's good for landlords because then you've got less risk purchasing an investment because you know if you've done your research and the lot's big enough and you meet all the requirements, you're guaranteed to you can definitely put that secondary suite in. So then you can run your pro formas and you can go in with less risks buying the investment because you know your outcome with good legislation and policy. We don't have that in Calgary, but here's what Calgary just did. We were talking this off air. So 5 weeks ago, middle of September here, we just had our Mayor Jody Gondak called an emergency meeting on a Saturday. They actually met on a Saturday, and there was about 2.5 days preceding the actual meeting where public input was collected about they had this task force called the how do you say it? affordable housing task force, and they did like a 6-month study, and they had this report. It's comprehensive, and they essentially had 6 core recommendations with 32 actionable items that came out of it. The most controversial item was so Edmonton 2008 did blanket wide rezoning, allowed to go from 1 to 2 units from a density factor. Well, Calgary just approved 5 weeks ago, and it's gone back to city administration to update our bylaws, which is happening right now. They just approved going from a density factor of an RC1, so a single family unit, 1 dwelling, up to 8.
Oh, 8.
They went from 0 to 100. Because they're trying, like, I know what, kudos to the mayor and city council, because they've taken some action that's going to really have a very material impact, because it's a supply and demand imbalance, right? We have a huge demand, little supply. And there's an effect at every level, federal, provincially, and municipality. But I say the municipality, who controls the bylaws and what you're allowed to build on the land, has probably the biggest, most consistent, biggest factor in that restriction on supply. And our city just went from 0 to 100 and allowed a density factor of going from 1 unit up to possibly of 8 units.
Wow,
which is nuts. Yeah,
not that anyone
it wasn't well received by the city.
I hope other municipalities are listening to this, because I don't think anyone goes over 4.
Yeah, so if we're looking at like a proper sized lot, which would be like 50 feet of frontage on the front of the street going to 120 feet, so it's like 557 square meters or 6,000 square feet. That unit right now, you can knock down the single family home. You could put 4 3-bedroom townhouses up top in 2 buildings. So basically you build a duplex facing the street. You have a courtyard of like 10 feet in the middle. Then you have another duplex facing the alley overlooking the garage. And each duplex can have a legalized basement suite. So I've got 4 townhouses, 3 bedrooms, 2.5 baths on top of around 1,100 square feet, probably more like around 1,100. They're going to be on the smaller side. And I can have either a combined basement suite of 2 bedrooms, 1 bath, or right now the numbers obviously make more sense. I'd have 4 1-bedroom, 1 bath basement suites at like 450 square feet. So still tiny little units, but a lot more supply coming in the market.
That's amazing. And are you already quoting this? You're already doing this?
I'm doing it right now. In fact, so shameless plug, if someone's looking for a good investment, reach out to me. I'm raising capital right now, but I just secured a property, and it's my estimate, I'm under market by like 50K, give or take, by about 10,000. And I'm doing this in Bowness, where I went to high school in Calgary. So I actually have a rental there now. I've been there for 5 years, so I know my rental rates. I know my tenant demographic. And Bowness is unique in the sense in Alberta because it was a town that got annexed by the city of Calgary in the 1960s. So its proximity to downtown and a lot of the major amenities is super close. Like it's a 10 to 15-minute drive to downtown. Yet I have these massive lots that don't really exist anywhere else in the city, just because it used to be a standalone town in the 1960s.
How big is the lot you bought?
This one I've got is that exact size. It's
50 by 120.
Yeah, it's 60 by 100. Same area, just a little bit different dimension. So I have a little bit more frontage, but a little bit more shell of a lot. But yeah, and I can build 8 units on it, which is what I'm pursuing right now.
And you already have like drawings for 8 units?
I have 2 architects I'm just finalizing who I'm going to go with, so I'll have those in the upcoming weeks.
Cool. Yeah, if you don't mind, can you share me with like an image of it or a PDF so I can include it with the show notes?
Yeah,
I'm sure people like, generally, I'm a geek, so I'm sure a percentage of our 17 listeners are geeks as well. We like to geek out on.
Yeah, I'll send you the city did a really good job. They have some great informational packages on the zonings that allow, and they've got some great pictures, so I'll send them along with you.
Yeah, or even better yet, you'd reach out to Mackenzie directly, and he can be happy to chat with you about it.
Yeah, I'll get Vernon my contact information. But yeah, and so one other unique factor that I'll wrap up this investor conversation, then we can spin back to some of the other pressing topics. But so if I'm sure most of your listeners know, I know you'd probably know, Irvin, but there's really good, I want to call it cheap, financing available from the government right now through CMHC, so commercial mortgages, that MLI Select program. But a quick recap, right? It allows you to loan a value of 95%, so only 5% down. Your amortization is 50 years. So imagine what that does to your mortgage payment. It just completely compresses it, makes it a lot smaller. And you can cash flow right out the gate with this investment. Now, to qualify, there's a bunch of criteria. You can qualify in 3 different levels. It's a point system to justify, because they give you tiers of 35, 45, and 50 years for amortization. I know I'm going really fast here, but I want to provide as much value as I can for the show. There's 3 qualifications. There's one is climate change or climate efficiency of your building, like how airtight and all that good stuff it is. There's access. So do you have ramps and elevators and that kind of nature to allow people with different needs able to access your building? But the most common one that most people are using, which is what I'm using as well, is affordability. So to qualify through this program, I have to designate 25% of my units. So in my case, an 8plex, that would be 2 units. I have the choice of which units they are. So naturally, I'll pick my 1-bedroom units in the basement. I have to designate it as affordable rents for a 10-year term. Now, here's what is really interesting. Even with Calgary's rental rates jumping up 30% year over year, a 1-bedroom right now in the areas that I'm in will rent for $450 plus the cost of utilities. But let's just remove utilities out of the question. It's $450. Also, the threshold that's defined by the Canadian Mortgage Housing Corporation and Stats Canada, they have their own report. It's based on median income in the local area. So ours is for the city of Calgary. Their cutoff point to be defined as affordable is $1,738 of rent. So just let that sink in. Or what I'm telling you is, my market rent for 1-bedroom is $450, yet the government's giving me financing saying that the affordability cutoff point, you can charge up to a max for the ceiling for affordability, is $1,738. I'm still $300 below what the government's defining as affordable. So I can still basically charge the market rent on these 2 units that are designated as affordable for the next 10 years. And my numbers right now show that I cash flow like $2,000 a month with management, or if I self-manage and reduce that, I can get the cash flow up to $3,000 a month off the hop.
$2,000 cash flow sounds nice.
Brand new, no deferred maintenance, completely billed, and no rent control.
SingleKey, tenant screening.
I might know a thing or two. So yeah, anyways, it's fun. It's amazing because right now, if you go to like,
what the financing? Wait. So hang on, 95% loan to value. That includes construction? What's that?
Yeah. So
like, walk me through the financing. So you buy the property and what?
So there's two loans at play. There's a development construction loan that will get me through construction. My construction costs, including what I've seen for current trade rates right now, going is about $230 a square foot, and that five. So we'll go through. I got to raise about. I can do the project for $350 to $400K. I'm raising $450 to do contingency, which is a requirement of the CMHC MLI Select program, the financing through the government. So when this is all said and done, and and I have a conventional mortgage with a 50-year AM, all that good stuff, the investor just have to have my money partner and I only need to have 5% down in the property. So land right now is, like, I just bought one for $475. Let's call my lots $500K. My construction costs on that square footage at $203 a square foot is in around $1.6 million. So all in, I'm getting a conventional mortgage at $2.1 million at 5% down. I think it's like $135,000 or something like that. But I have other costs I have to account for too. So really, the investor's going to be in the investment for around $350 to $400K. So, I mean, I don't know a better deal where you get cash flow at the door between $2,000 and $3,000 a month. They're only in for $350,000, and they can come in as a partner with me on I'm seeing forced appreciation. These units are probably selling, like, if I was to sell the whole complex, I'd probably be worth like 2.4, 2.5 conservatively. So I get another uplift of like $300,000 to $400,000.
And how many of these do you have?
I'm doing number 1. My goal is to build 10 of these, and then I'm over the next 5 years, and then I am a full-time hockey coach with my kids and camping and living my why.
How hard is it to find these lots?
That's the challenge right now is we have low inventory in Calgary, but I have a really good realtor. He's a wholesaler, and he got me, not only did he get me a lot, but he got it off market saving 50 grand. So
Okay. Sorry, he said he's a realtor. So would this be a pocket listing then, or something like that?
pocket listing.
Technically,
Yeah.
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 I like wholesalers too, in case anyone worries about what I think about people. No one should care what I think. That sounds amazing. 2,000 bucks
Yeah.
cash flow. You're creating inventory. It's in line with what the government wants.
Yep. And Calgary is a unique again that on my market rents have even met the threshold for affordability. So I can still charge basically market rents for all of my units, even though 2 of them are designated as affordable housing.
Is there any downside to this? Maybe labor shortages?
Yeah, maybe a bit of that. No, not really. I just think, and you know just as well as I, or when like the macroeconomics at play here, we're still pounding, or we're still this huge influx of population immigration into this country. That's not slowing down. Alberta
Because
and go ahead.
before we were recording, I was asking you what your thoughts were because people are leaving. Like even if people arrive in Ontario, BC, like I don't understand like can afford stuff. You know what I mean? And like Calgary's bearing the brunt now of I don't know if they're bearing much brunt from immigration, but definitely in migration from other provinces. Like, and do you see it as well? Like, is traffic stupid? Is it hard to get a coffee at Tim Hortons?
Yeah, I don't know. No, I mean, yeah, I mean, yeah, a little. I could just see there's just generally more people for sure. But like just being directly in the rental market right now and seeing our rents jump up as high as they have, and there's just we're probably hovering around above 0% vacancy right now. We're probably below 1%.
Oh,
Maybe we were 1.5. Like it's low, right?
So it's a
It's
good thing you're
people are
building
desperate.
more.
Yeah, like it's and I don't like this. And like it sounds great. Your real estate shouldn't be exciting. I don't want to see 30% year over year increase in rents, because you know what that means? That's unsustainable. If it's going to go up this fast, there's going to be a correction, and it's going to do one of these. I'd rather just have steady Eddie, easy, predictable, boring, 5% a year, 6% a year increases. It's manageable for your tenants. They can still manage the bills. And I know what my numbers are, and I've got just steady growth and appreciation and mortgage pay down.
Right.
This rocket ship can't go up
Yeah.
forever.
Yeah. Because then there was talk like people were asking for rent control. It's just natural.
People are asking for rent control, and I get it. Like from an outsider that doesn't understand the moving pieces of the economy. On the surface, I want my rent controlled. I can manage my budgets better. That sounds great without really knowing the unintended consequences that come with a policy like that. So I get why people are asking for it, but when you start digging into how it actually functions and the impact on the market, it's not a good solution at all.
Yeah, that's why I was actually even surprised. Like Rachel Notley was proposing CPI +2, so inflation +2% would be was her proposal for rent control in Alberta.
Yeah, I don't like it though.
You know how much we would give Ontario and BC if we could get CPI +2? Because right now that'd be like 5.8%. It's better than 2.5%.
BC, what did BC just do this week? Was it this week or last week they announced it?
Pretty recently, 3.5. Oh yeah, and the ban of short-term rentals.
Ban short-term rentals. Okay, so
outside your home. Yeah.
Yeah, so in any municipality or city with a population of 10,000 or greater, you are no longer allowed Airbnbs outside your primary residence. I just think it's a really poor solution. It's a drop in the bucket of what they need. And I bet you a lot of that Airbnb housing, like I've got a colleague right now I was talking to at a landlord conference in Calgary last week, and her family owns a townhouse condos in Kelowna. They're in Calgary. They go and they live out there in the summer months, and then they just Airbnb in the shoulder season to kind of offset the cost and across winter. They don't get much in the winter, she said. And so they're going to force that person to either sell that property to another buyer, or it's not going to provide that value, that long-term impact into the rental market stock, because she'll probably just end up giving it up. And yeah, it's just, the perceived benefit won't be there. Calgary's doing a study right now, so this is really interesting. I was listening to the city council meeting when we are talking about short-term rentals, and I'm a little bit annoyed because so the Saturday meeting, it was all day. I listened to the first 3 hours of it, and I had one of my city councilors going on and on how this could be a big, measurable impact, statistically speaking. And our head of administration for the city of Calgary said, well, we have a study being conducted by U of C. We're very lucky because they're doing a very in-depth study to answer exactly this question. But the preliminary results are in so far, and we've noticed that most Airbnbs in Calgary only run for on average about 6 weeks a year.
Oh, that's not much.
So that would be, hey, we have the Calgary Stampede event in. I'm going to rent out my basement to get some extra money because I'm retired, or whatever
you leave
it
town.
is.
You leave town, rent the whole house.
Yeah, or you know what? I travel for. You're right. I travel for 2 months over the summer. I'll rent out my place to offset some costs. They're going to ban people from the ability to do this, and they're hoping that that's going to directly impact a huge spike in supply of the rental market. Those units aren't going to go to the rental market. Only a fraction of them, and it's not going to be the intended effect. And now you're trampling and taking away owners' rights with properties, and you're removing an income stream that people could leverage part-time if they're retired or on pension or whatever it might be, to maintain a quality of life that you've now removed. So it's not the best solution.
Yeah, hopefully calmer heads will prevail. I don't think they'll stop you from doing it in your own home. I can't recall any municipality restricting. They restrict the amount you can do your own home to 6 months or something, which isn't that bad. So that would completely protect a 6 week.
If I had to take Erwin, I would look at the median income in the area based on CRA or Stats Canada, and based on people's tax filings, allow them to run as many Airbnbs to meet the median income in their area. Why limit to just a primary residence? It's my thought. If you want to really provide the quality of life and still try to limit that model, but there's a lot more going on. Airbnb isn't the root cause of the issue. The root cause is, unfortunately, some poor legislation, and bylaws. It's supply restriction at the bylaw at the local level, and then legislation is like an accelerator. It either speeds up or slows down your economy. It doesn't add GDP, right? It doesn't add jobs and growth and all that. But people can function a lot easier here in Alberta. I can get through our tribunal process in a matter of days, 2 weeks, under a month at least, anyways, on average, where you guys are 8 months to get your hearing. If you're perfectly squeaky clean and you haven't made any mistakes, you mess up that process, you've just doubled that timeline to 16 months. How can you function without that high level of risk? You can't, which is what you guys are seeing. And
then we're seeing we're actually seeing demand for rental properties is falling through the floor, right? A property with a tenant is doesn't draw showings from what I'm seeing, right? So people are just so afraid of that risk, right?
Well, and with the costs rising so quickly right now, people are probably just toughing it out, and they're choosing not to move because you guys can lock in rent controls based on a lease, right? On a tenancy. So I would, if I was in that position, why would I move? The rents are, unless I had to, which is unfortunate because now the side effect is, sorry. And I'm going to bring back to another point why I digressed and went down this path. So the root cause is legislation and supply issues, and attacking an Airbnb as a side effect to try to solve this root cause, it's not going to solve the problem. And I think it's doing more damage than benefit, my humble opinion.
At least they're talking about the supply side versus the conversation for the past several years has been the demand side. We add foreign buyer taxes, but we allow 1 million people into the country each year.
Right? Or it's our prime minister saying, housing is a right. And I would correct him and say he's close. It's shelter is a right. Housing and shelter are really two different things. We can dive into details. But he says that on one hand, and then on the other hand, he's pumping people in this country like it's going out of style. And if he was
knowing
really
full well we can't house
about,
them all.
knowing if he was really serious about solving this housing issue, he would turn down the taps to downsell it a little bit more, just a little bit. But then I've also heard the argument too is that we've got all this immigration come in, skilled labor. They can help spur the economy, build more, provide more jobs, or so I don't know. I'm not an economist. I'm just an opinionated homeowner.
But you are researching a lot of this stuff. So I was wondering if you had an opinion on where you see Alberta going, because again, like people naturally seek affordability. Like I have friends like I think houses in Windsor, Ontario, for example. It's like it's almost as far as what you can get from Toronto. It's still like 600,000. So I believe
that's like
still
our average price right now in Calgary.
Right, and Calgary's beautiful.
In Calgary.
Right.
Yeah.
And then, but you can live in the outskirts of Calgary for probably less. Am I right?
Yeah. Yeah, and we have satellite cities or communities. So just north of Calgary is a city of Airdrie, just west of Calgary is the city of Cochrane, and then east of Calgary is Chestermere and Strathmore, and then south of Calgary is Okotoks, and it's even cheaper in those communities.
And are they seeing like ridiculous price increases each year?
We're starting to see our because like knowing how our economics play, rents are going to go up first, and then if it's sustained long enough, value of your land or the cost of land is going to start going up. So right now we're on the upswing. Our property values are going up right now.
Right. Yeah, and then I predict, like where you're saying with rents, it's just going to be unhealthy how fast it goes up.
Yeah, it's. I mean, giving you context to your kind of economy question and my look at it, Erwin. Alberta is typically opposite of the rest of Canada. Is when you guys are not doing great, we buck the trend and we do well. So oil and gas is strong right now. Energy security is still a major concern internationally speaking. We're at capacity. The reason we're not booming and we're just doing good is because of policy right now, and there's no appetite right now to invest, because I think we have to be net neutral by carbon by 2035. Was it 2030? No, it's 2035. That's not 7 years. We're be 23. That's 5. That's like 9. What is that? How many years? That's like 12 years from now.
Yeah, 12
Anyways,
years.
a lot of these projects in the oil and gas need a 10 or 15 year period to get the ROI for a multi-million dollar investment. So one, we don't have that money being invested right now. And a lot of our major oil and gas players are self-funding their own exploration. They're maintaining what they already have. And the other problem is because we're already at 100% capacity on the logistics side of getting the energy out of the ground, whether it's oil or gas, whatever product it might be, and then getting it to the coast to sell it to Japan or Germany or whoever needs it to buy it offshore from us. We have, like, I think of it like straws out of a milkshake. We already have our 3 straws full, and no one's buying us more straws. So why
build a pipeline?
why build more supply if the straw, you only have 3 straws and they're already at capacity?
Right.
So that's a problem, right? And there's no desire to unfortunately build some more pipelines, because even though I do agree that we need to eventually get to a carbon neutral position, the timelines currently proposed are they're unrealistic, which is unfortunate. And you see that every winter when people need to get around, you can't run on pure electricity in minus 25. It just doesn't work. So
I can imagine.
Yeah, I
lose like a third more on my Tesla. Just I think it's partly just because the car has to heat itself, right? So the Tesla has to run a lot more heat, which is
right.
Which is
keep
expensive.
the cab warm for you, and then keep the batteries warm enough to keep it getting charged. So yeah, so I'm curious. So tell me that. So in a full charge in the summer, what's your normal range estimated, like daily driving? Call it like 500 kilometers, 400 kilometers.
Yeah, if I charge to 100%, it says 500, but it won't go 500 because I probably drive a little bit too fast, which causes excessive wind resistance. But yeah,
you mean real world testing environment, says Erwin.
yeah. Well, if you have a heavy foot like I do, but yeah, because it's a lot of fun to drive.
That's what I said. You mean real world testing environment, Erwin? Okay, yes, gotcha. Yeah. Okay, so call it like 450, 400.
Yeah, sure.
But now in the winter with that same full charge,
lose a third. Yeah, because again, like just think in your daily usage, like you go somewhere, you park it, you go inside, leave it a while, then you gotta reheat the car, go somewhere else, leave it. So then you gotta reheat it, and yeah, it draws the battery. Yeah.
And how much, like, how long does it take you to recharge a battery? Like from nearly empty to full, your worst case scenario, like how long does that take? Is that like
And a supercharger is like half an hour, 35 minutes.
Oh.
Yeah.
And at your house, can you charge your car from complete empty to completely full overnight?
Yeah. Do it all the time. Yeah. And it's really cheap. It's about $9 for me to fully charge my car for my home. Yeah. Supercharger would cost a bit more, about $30. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. But you drive 400 kilometers, it's about time for a break. So then you take your break, plug it in, and then go walk around, get a burger, whatever. Just get a coffee, get a Timmy's, get a Starbucks, and then go to the bathroom, get back on the road, and you're good. Yeah,
makes sense.
Yeah. But again, we're not. I don't know if we ever see -25.
Yeah, well, and the nice thing about Alberta is we get Chinooks off the mountains, just the way our weather patterns work. So we get breaks from the extremely cold weather. You go to, say, Saskatoon, Regina, or Manitoba, and Winnipeg, they get those extended like 3-week chills where it's just like uncomfortably cold at -30 plus for a while, like 3 weeks. That's brutal.
I'd be curious how Tesla operates in that kind of weather as well. But Toronto was very mild for, we haven't stress tested like you're talking about. You were talking about a tech advancement with SingleKey.
Yeah, let's get into it. Oh, man. So
Miller will be happy.
This is why I'm in town. We got a conference this weekend, which I think you might be going out now too. So
I'm your chauffeur, so I hope I get in.
Yeah, that's right.
We're taking the Tesla. I have to make sure to charge it.
It's good. Yeah, good. I've only ridden in one once, so this will be good. But yeah, so sidetrack. So really excited here to tell us at SingleKey, tell us my own company at SingleKey. We've completely rebuilt our report. I'm going to be doing some sneak peeks too this weekend at the conference, but we've also completely rebuilt our dashboard for the landlords when they log in. We've had to rebuild our whole platform to accommodate the new report. So we're doing this soft launch kind of phased approach. So functionally today, our new backend's up and running where you log into, but it's not publicly available yet. So we're going to do a little bit more testing this week into next week. We will have the new portal launched here in November. And then in December, our new credit report's coming out. And I'm so excited for this, Erwin, because we've basically taken the same most comprehensive report and they give your listeners just some context that they've never seen it before. Our average report and number of pages is like between 15 and 20 pages of report based on the tenant's credit history and a bunch of other factors. We have now added a household profile. So our report will now capture the number of renters, their relationships to each other. We also do a pet profile. So we'll know your pet is, we'll provide a picture of the pet, the type of pet, if it's a dog, cat, breed, pit bull, Jack Russell Terrier, whatever it might be, sex, weight, size, is it fixed? Like all these kind of factors when you're trying to make an informed decision if this renting household's a good fit or party is a good fit for your vacancy, you need to know this information. Because obviously if you've got a one-bedroom condo and a family of 6 is applying on your rental property, and it does happen. There's cultural norms around the world where large families and extended families live together as one. You need to be able to make that informed decision with all the right information at your fingertips, which is what we really focus on doing here at SingleKey. We're gonna have ID verification. So now we're using algorithm and software to take a selfie and the government issued ID, like a passport or a driver's license, and we can tell you within a percentage, like we're 99% confident that this selfie is this person in the picture, and that's part of the report. So
which is incredibly important.
Yeah,
you need to know who you're renting to,
right? 100%. Yeah. What else are we doing?
You mentioned. What's the medium? I don't want to give it away. Can I do this on my phone? Can I QR code it to my tenant? Like what? No, we're mobile friendly. Absolutely. We're seeing that trend for a while now where more stuff's being done on a smaller device screen versus sitting down at a computer with a desktop, right? So one of the other cool things too is right now today,
tenant SingleKey is in the world of everything is a landlord is a landlord first product, meaning that it has to be initiated by the landlord to purchase, whether it's our tenant report, our rent collection, or our rent guarantee. Tomorrow, I'll go on the limb. I'm going to say Q1 next year. We're bringing in tenant first offering. So we're going to give the ability for a tenant to go purchase their credit report from SingleKey and share it for free to as many landlords they want in, say, a 35-day period.
That's genius.
So then they minimize the impact to their credit score by not filling out 5 or 6 credit checks.
Yeah.
They keep their costs down, and then we make the tenant look really good. Like if you're looking at
cleaner, which is what I want to see.
Exactly, right? If you got 10 people came into your rental at Irwin and 2 of them got SingleKey reports prepaid for that you can scan and take a look at, you're going to probably shortlist those 2 people.
Yeah, and I'll just continue the analogy. Like someone shows up with their credit report and like their bank statements and their checkbook in hand, ready to go. Like you're in the top 10% usually. You know what I mean? Like that's serious. You know what I mean? Like they're here to. They're not kidding around.
Yeah.
Versus the person that says you're not entitled to a credit check. Like, okay, that's not legal. That's fantastic because just like the old days, like we'd tell people to get their own Equifax report, and so that they wouldn't hurt their own credit. You know what I mean? Obviously, there's Photoshop risk in that, but
all right. I'm glad you brought that up, Erwin. We have addressed that issue as well. So Erwin, you brought up Photoshopping, right? So best practice is always. So pro tip here is always get your information from a trusted third party or trusted source. So Mackenzie Tenant has a printed off PDF or report. I give it to you physically at the viewing. I could have easily photoshopped the credit score. But what we've done, Erwin, is we put a QR code now on the top of the report. The landlord scans that with my phone. It redirects me to SingleKey. I have to log into my SingleKey account or create an account if you don't have one. And then I get direct access to that exact same report that was given to me right from SingleKey. Right. And I can look at the SingleKey report and I can look at the paper copy in front of me and ensure that they are an exact match. So I could be guaranteed the information that SingleKey report is accurate.
Right. And then for anyone who thinks that tenants can't do technology, like I literally had to do I literally did the ArriveCan app yesterday. So to scan my passport and take a selfie and answer questions and stuff, and that saves me a lot of time. So pretty much anyone who travels should be able to handle this. Am I right?
I think so. That's where we're going to, right? Yeah.
That's amazing. And so for people interested in protecting themselves, doing proper tenant screening, where can they get more information on SingleKey?
Yeah, so head over to our website, SingleKey.com. I actually think, Erwin, you might have a special promotion code with us too. So if you're part of Erwin's following, reach out to him. I think he's got a discount for you.
I included the show notes. I believe it's just IWIN. It's IWIN. I'll have it in the show notes, folks. Yeah.
Yeah. So when you go to order the report, you can. There's a promo code field. So make sure you punch that. I don't know what the discount is for you.
I think it's 20% off. Yeah, I bought it recently.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah.
And anyone who's listening that's a tenant, they can use the same thing.
Yeah, well, we haven't launched yet, so we're still good. We've got some rough details, but what I've articulated is the high level, how it's going to function. Marketing details and pricing, I imagine it's going to be pretty similar in pricing, though. I wouldn't be charging something different. So if they're a tenant, then we're in around that $25 range.
Oh, so last time Viller was on here, he was sharing a whole bunch of stuff that was coming out. Do you have any other announcements? Are you able to do folks from other countries, for example?
Yeah, so we are in the oh man, so many hooks in the fire here, but really excited. We do have a partner now to do international credit checks. That's been asked a lot. I know we're also looking at
we need some Indian credit checks.
Payment by credit card or pay your rent by credit card. Oh, yeah. It's more of a corner case where we've got typically it's more well-off international students come in the country. They need a place to live. Their parents are just, instead of being bothered with the hassle and logistics of opening up a Canadian bank account, they'll pay, I'd call it really aggressive fees, but they'll just pay it by credit card and pay the rent up front or pay it on a monthly basis ongoing. So we've been requested
they just want the convenience.
So we've been requested the ability to help landlords correct rent by credit card.
And then, how soon for the partner for international credit?
Yeah, I don't have a timeline right now. So our priority right now, the next big thing coming around the corner that we have in the works is digital lease signing.
Fantastic.
So what's really excited about this for landlords is you can really protect yourself by making their mandatory requirements to have certain documentation provided by the tenant. In particular, tenant insurance. It's so overlooked and it's so critically important. Before that tenant can sign off and get their complete lease, they have to upload proof of tenant insurance.
Oh, yeah,
So they have the choice to upload their own tenant insurance if they already have a provider, or we've partnered to get some really good discounts for the tenants, so they get some good pricing as well. And part of that process is when they upload or use our partner insurance or upload their own, you've now got that documentation part of your lease package. So you're in a really strong position.
Right. And I, you know, you can comment, but I think ideally you have your proof of tenant insurance before you hand off keys, because it's really easy to get. It's really easy to get, and it's cheap. It's usually under $20 a month, in my experience. And
Yeah,
it's so
and that's
important.
such a pro tip, man. Like 100%. You shouldn't. They should have utilities in their name if that's applicable.
Oh, can you do that too on SingleKey? Upload your
No,
your
not yet.
confirmation of
There's a few
utilities.
jurisdictions. I'll
Phase
put that on
three,
the back
phase
burner.
4.
Yeah, but yeah, you're exactly right though. And it's like these are just you don't get possession before rent. Like in Alberta, we can collect their first month's rent and the damage deposit or security deposit prior to possession. I know for you guys don't have a damage deposit. It's first month's and last month's rent. You should always be collecting that before keys is given over. It's just it's one-on-one stuff, but man, it's
because once they're inside the property, that's your last
you're done.
chance.
They're in. They've established a lease, whether or not you've signed one. There's applied consent. So yeah, don't do it.
Yeah. And then quick tenant insurance story. I had one of my clients there. One of the tenants' guests caused fire to the home, and it was a duplex. So then one of the family's tenants that was completely not responsible at all, they didn't have tenant insurance. So then they had to come out of pocket for like hotel and whatnot, and also moving and all sorts of things. And then what's worse was they came back to the landlord to ask them to pay for the hotel.
And they're not responsible for it. I mean, I'm assuming this is the same for you guys in Ontario, but in Alberta, same thing. I'm responsible for insurance on the doors, the stove, the house. The tenant's responsible for their own possessions and accommodations. So if they're ousted because of a claim, a fire damage, or a flood, and they can't live in that property for 2 months of remediation, they're financially responsible for their accommodations for those 2 months. That's not fun. That's a lot of money for someone that's probably trying to make ends meet paycheck to paycheck. Just get it's like $20 to $30 a month. Get the tenant insurance, protect yourself, and you're never going to be in this position where you're trying to scramble for accommodations and paying out of pocket.
There's enough going on when you have a house fire than to come out of pocket for more other things. Mackenzie, thanks so much for doing this. Thanks for the share on the 1 to 8 unit in Calgary. Congratulations, Calgary.
Thanks.
Congratulations to all the investors who own 50 by 120 lots.
It's since I've been doing my like really focusing on real estate since 2016, 2017, this is by far the best opportunity I've seen. Like you can buy the single families at retail, like through MLS and get the legal basement and make it work, which is what I've done for my first properties. That's how I cut my teeth in learning property management and all that. But this is it's just the trifecta of, and we've reduced a bunch of zoning requirements. So the other thing I didn't mention is all the parking requirements are now gone in Calgary.
Oh, sorry. So this 8plex doesn't have to have any parking?
So when they come back end of summer next year, they reduce parking to 0, which is I don't agree with that. But what they did in January of this year, they made another change that they put into. They did it fall of last year, and they put it in effect January of this year. On these townhouse developments, they reduced parking by 50% at the beginning of 2023. But now this new proposal completely eliminates parking requirement.
What was the original parking requirement?
Oh, that's a great question. So right now, our parking requirement is 0.5 stalls per unit. So it would have been 1 stall per unit before.
That's not even much. And then they have that?
Yeah. So I mean, I wouldn't be able to do this 4-unit townhouse on a 1 stall per unit, because that's 8 parking spots, right?
Yeah.
Because now 8 units with half of parking stall requirement is only 4 spots, across the back I have a 4-bay garage with 1 bay for each townhouse. main floor. And then the basement suites don't require any parking requirements.
And then what's the transportation access for this property?
Oh, it's great. So there's busing. It'll be all busing, and then there's road access as well. And probably the other good thing about this community too, because I said the lots are really large, there's lots of street parking. So this is probably one of the communities that parking won't be an issue, just because of the general size of lots in the neighborhood. Right. And there's lots of green space. And like I'm right across from, actually I'm like 3 doors down from my high school, and there's tons of parking around there as well, because it's just beside the football field and stuff like that.
Amazing. Progressive. Housing over parking stalls.
Yeah.
Mac, anything else you want to share that we didn't cover?
Oh man, Ern, I love talking to you. This is always fun because it gets me just kind of going. I think we did a really good job. Like we've got great changes coming down, more powerful tools for landlords with SingleKey. There's always opportunities to invest in Canada. You just got to find them. And right now, legislation changes and bylaw changes are making that really quite interesting here in Calgary. But I know you're shopping USA. You got on your hat there. So
I don't live in Calgary.
Yeah. do your research. It comes down to just education is so critically important in this business. And so you're gonna pick me up on Saturday? Is that the real? That we're doing?
Yeah, it's in the calendar.
Yeah.
From the Go station. We can chat offline. Shout out Kayla, Ontario Landlord Watch. We're coming to the conference.
We'll see you in a day and a half.
All right. Thanks, Mackenzie.
Cheers.
Thank you for watching. If you want to learn how to invest in real estate from scratch, my team teaches beginners how to use the #1 investment strategy that I personally use in a virtual free training class every month. Go to investortraining.ca/YouTube to register for our next class. The link is also in the description as well. I publish at least 2 to 3 videos a week here, so subscribe if you want to keep learning from seasoned investors like myself and my guests. And if you're just starting out, feel free to ask questions and comment below, and I do the best to answer each of those comments and questions myself. Again, if you're ready to learn the nitty-gritty about real estate investing from a professional investor, register for our next virtual class. That's at investortraining.ca/YouTube. Thanks again for watching. See you in the next video.